We have heard nonstop over the last 2 weeks that President Trump is Hitler, right? President Trump is a Nazi. And the reason President Trump is a Nazi is because of his policy of separating children from their parents at the border. When people enter illegally into the United States, not at ports of entry, when they enter across the border in Arizona, for example, or Texas, and they're picked up by ICE, then they are immediately criminally prosecuted. And that means that by law, their kids have to be separated from them. And this means that Trump is evil, right? Trump is totally evil. Now, you might ask yourself, did this policy begin with Trump? And as I've been saying for well on 2 weeks now, no, this policy did not begin with Trump. This policy began with Barack Obama, whose policy in 2014, 2015 was that he would arrest entire families and keep the kids unified with the parents. And as I have said also, that there was a 2016 ruling, Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, that says you're not allowed to do that anymore. You have to release the kids. That's what leads to the parental separation. I've also been saying that if Trump backed down on this, that if Trump said we're going to reunify the families but keep them in custody, immediately there would be a bunch of Democrats who signaled that this was unacceptable as well. So separating families was like the Nazis, and keeping families together in custody is also like the Nazis. The only solution left, of course, is to release everybody into the general population. And that's exactly what Democrats have been pushing for. Well, one of the things that is truly maddening about this entire situation is the lack of intellectual honesty on virtually all sides on it, but particularly from the left. Tammy Baldwin is a senator from I believe, Wisconsin. Is that correct? And Tammy Baldwin was on CNN yesterday, and she was specifically asked about whether she felt the same way when young migrant children were being imprisoned by Barack Obama. Watch Tammy Baldwin struggle to come up with an answer as to why she wasn't angry when Barack Obama was imprisoning children.
Did you raise your voice under the Obama administration?
You know, in numbers of cases, usually I remember a constituent who was in detention at the border, arguably very inappropriately, and we raised our voice in that instance and many others. But we've got to do this now in unison. It's not enough to do it case by case or senator or House member by House member. We've got to resolve to fix this issue.
Okay, so that's a no. Okay, that's a no. I didn't care when Obama was president. Yes, I do care when Donald Trump is president. The best evidence that the media seriously don't care about this issue until Trump is president comes today courtesy of the Associated Press. So there's a story from the Associated Press. Here's the title: Young Immigrants Detained in Virginia Center Allege Abuse. Now, you would imagine, just from reading that title, that the allegations of abuse are taking place because of stuff that is happening today, right? Allegations of abuse that are happening today in the Shenandoah Valley Juvenile Center. That it's all about Trump. Now, this story mentions Donald Trump 7 separate times in the course of this very long story from the Associated Press. It mentions Barack Obama 0 times in this very long story about abuses at detention centers of illegal immigrant minors. And now, there's only one problem. All of the abuses alleged in the story happened under Barack Obama's watch. All of them happened in 2015, 2016. That is buried in paragraph 19 of this story. Paragraph 19. So paragraph 19, they finally mention, oh, by the way, all these illegal immigrant minors who were abused or allegedly abused, they're abused under Obama. They mention that in paragraph 19, and they mention Donald Trump 7 times, and they mention Barack Obama by name 0 times. And then you wonder why when Donald Trump goes to his rallies and he shouts about fake news and people cheer and chant fake news, you wonder why people take Donald Trump seriously when he says fake news? Because you bury the lead, and then you don't report that Obama had anything to do with it. And how bad were these abuses? The answer is pretty damn bad. Here's the Associated Press. Immigrant children as young as 14 housed at a juvenile detention center in Virginia say they were beaten while handcuffed and locked up for long periods in solitary confinement, left nude and shivering in concrete cells. The abuse claims against the Shenandoah Valley Juvenile Center near Staunton, Virginia, are detailed in federal court filings that include a half-dozen sworn statements from Latino teens jailed there for months or years. Multiple detainees say the guards stripped them of their clothes and strapped them to chairs with bags placed over their heads. Now, normally, when I lead a story and when I write a story, I usually say on Wednesday or in 2015. The date is the first thing you say because it sort of matters to the story. You don't get any dates here until paragraph 19. First, you get this paragraph. Many of the children were sent there after U.S. immigration authorities accused them of belonging to violent gangs, including MS-13. President Donald Trump has repeatedly cited gang activity as justification for his crackdown on illegal immigration. So that sounds like Donald Trump has been saying everybody's MS-13, so ICE is out there arresting a bunch of innocent kids, throwing them in prison and torturing them because they say they're MS-13, right? That's what you would get from that AP story. And the AP continues like this, right? Trump said Wednesday that our Border Patrol agents and our ICE agents have done one great job cracking down on MS-13 measures, on MS-13 gang members. We're throwing them out by the thousands, he said. And then this is the best part. Okay, so finally, This is now in, let's see, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, paragraph 10. Okay, paragraph 10, we finally get to a point here. Most children held in the Shenandoah facility who are the focus of the abuse lawsuit were caught crossing the border illegally alone. They were not the children who have been separated from their families under the Trump administration's recent policy and are now in the government's care. Okay, so in other words, this has nothing to do with the current issues that are being debated about family separation. And then, all the way down in paragraph 19, we get this. The complaint recounts the story of an unnamed 17-year-old Mexican citizen apprehended at the southern border. The teen fled an abusive father and violence fueled by drug cartels to seek asylum in the United States in 2015. Let me recall, when was the election of 2016? Oh, that's right, it was after 2015, it turns out. 2016, after 2015. After stops at facilities in Texas and New York, he was transferred to Shenandoah in April 2016. But wait, Donald Trump wasn't president then, right? If I recall, he wasn't even the nominee for the Republicans at that point in April 2016. But you don't find that out until paragraph 20. Information contained in a separate 2016 lawsuit appears to support some of the information contained in the recent abuse complaints. Wait a second, there was a separate 2016 lawsuit, meaning it was publicly available in 2016? What year is it now? Oh yeah, it's 2018. What happened in the intervening 2 years? Was there a presidential change? That's right, Donald Trump became president, and only then did the media start reporting on lawsuits alleging horrible abuses happening under Barack Obama. But remember, Obama's administration was scandal-free. Barack Obama says so, and that means that it's true. We also know that there was an ACLU report in 2015 talking about detainee abuses between 2009 and 2014. Did you ever hear about that? Of course you didn't hear about that, because nobody cared, because Barack Obama was president, and Barack Obama was the bringer of light. Barack Obama loved immigrants. How do we know? We know because he said so, and the media said so. In other words, there were lots and lots and lots of detainee abuses. Okay, and it was considered a detainee abuse to keep children together with their parents. And yet the media are only interested in Rachel Maddow is crying openly on air about the separation of children from parents. Now, in a second, I'm going to show you why the Trump administration's response to this has been so foolish, because the reality is Trump should have stuck to his guns here. He should have said, listen, we have a zero-tolerance policy. You cross the border, you're getting arrested, and it is not up to me to change the law. I cannot unilaterally change the law. The job of the executive branch is to execute the law. The Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals has already ruled that a settlement between the Clinton administration government, I cannot keep children together with parents, but I am not going to release everybody into the interior of the country. Trump should have maintained that line because that is the correct legal line. Instead, President Trump decided that he was going to announce an executive order under pressure. That's because the polling numbers were really not good on this stuff. The media attention on it obviously has been incredibly biased. But here was President Trump yesterday announcing that he was going to sign an executive order, and then we'll go through the text of the executive order in just a second.
We want to keep families together. It's very important. I'll be signing something in a little while that's going to do that. And the people in this room want to do that. And they're working on various pieces of legislation to get it done. But I'll be doing something that's somewhat preemptive, but ultimately will be matched by legislation, I'm sure.
So why did he do it? And the answer is he didn't like the headline. Right? President Trump has a bad habit of he gets himself into hot water, and then all of the people around him stand up and defend what he's done, right? They defend at least the policy. They say this is legally defensible. And then President Trump doesn't like the blowback, and then he undercuts his own side by going and saying, you know what, I'm going to sign an executive order and fix all of this. Okay, well, you can't sign this executive order doesn't do anything, right? It is ineffective. But it does hand a headline to the left, which is Trump folded, Trump caved. So Stephen Colbert last night on his execrable show, he said that President Trump folded by issuing this executive order.
Make no mistake, Trump folded. He folded like an origami Trump casino. This is the first time I have seen President Trump fold, right? He's never done this before. He folded for the first time. So how did we get here?
Okay, and then he talks about, we got here through public pressure. We got here because you spoke out, right? Trump folded like a house of cheap cards, right? That's what he did. Here's the problem. The same media that is saying that he folded, so that should mean problem over, right? I mean, if he folded, then the problem is over. Except for that was never the agenda. The actual agenda of the left is full release of anyone coming across the border. There's a feeling on the left that ICE itself is inappropriate, that there is something deeply wrong with even arresting people at the border. So, Samantha Bee, she comes forward and she says, listen, Trump retreats on separating families, and then he signs an order to detain them together. But for Samantha Bee, this is not enough. Why? Because she wants them all released into general society. That's the whole point.
Yay! No more baby internment camps, just regular internment camps. Cool, that's what we call a win in 2018. To be clear, I am happy that at least these kids are theoretically going to stay with their parents, but mommy and me jails are not a solution. They're not new, and they're also not legal.
Man, is she unfunny. My goodness. I mean, being in her audience must be like being in a comedy internment camp. My goodness, that's just, she is the worst. Wow. But the point that she's making is the point that Democrats were always going to make. And I have been saying this for weeks. Not to say I told you so, but I, period, told, period, you, period, so. I told you so. I told you that as soon as Trump said he's going to hold the families together, Democrats were immediately going to claim that something egregious had gone on. Something egregious was now going on. We're back to the policy that Obama embraced, but that was bad enough. All we want is full release. So, yeah, Bernie Sanders saying that too. Here's Bernie Sanders saying that President Trump's executive order, it did not go far enough. It did not include pudding funding for me and my friends. And also, I will not share my pudding with actual illegal immigrants, but I will rant about it until I get my pudding from one of my aides. Okay, the only way that Democrats are going to feel that President Trump went far enough is if he does an en masse release. Right, is that he gets an en masse release of all of these people. And that, of course, is the whole point here. So again, if you separate the kids from the families, that's inhumane. But if you keep the kids with the parents, that's also inhumane. So the only solution left, by process of elimination, is to release everyone, which, of course, is the entire goal. And by the way, justifies everything Trump has been saying about Democrats don't like borders, that Democrats just want illegal immigrants released into the general population, that actually is their priority. If that's not their priority, they need to propose a policy solution that allows us to arrest illegal immigrants who come in here with kids. Otherwise, they're not providing us a policy solution. They just want people released generally. And then Eric Swalwell, who's another congressperson, another Democrat congressperson, he comes forward, he says, this Trump executive order is going to lead to internment camps, Democrat from California.
This could lead to family internment camps, Wolf, and that is what we do not want to see. And the way to avoid that is to still follow that Flores decision, which is a humane decision that does not want people in camps like this indefinitely.
Okay, this is my favorite part. Okay, so my favorite part of this is that was the policy. Okay, the new Trump policy, keeping these kids together with their parents, that was the Trump policy, the stated Trump policy, the Obama policy, the government policy, up till 2015, 2016. Okay, Obama implemented that policy. So Luis Gutierrez, who is a radical leftist, right, from Illinois, he was asked about this. Right? He said, well, hold up a second. You know, you're ripping on Trump now saying that he's going to keep the families together, but that's what Obama did. Why didn't you complain about Obama on any of this? Here's Luis Gutierrez answering that question.
We did challenge Obama, but you know what? Obama had a heart. He had a soul. He had a heart. He had a center. He had convictions, and we could speak to those.
Okay, so in other words, we challenged him, but really we massaged his ass. Really, our challenge was really mostly us getting out the massage oils and just really going to work on President Obama. That's basically how we challenged him, because he had a heart. He had a soul. I looked into his eyes, and it was romantic. We had that long, lingering, awkward moment before we kissed. I mean, like, really, that was the way that you challenged Barack Obama, whose policy was exactly the same as the current reinstated policy of Donald Trump. The only difference between Trump's policy and Obama's policy is that Trump is doing it more often. That is literally the only difference. The only difference is that Trump is actually attempting to strictly enforce border crossings. He's using criminal court instead of civil convictions in order to enforce the border. And Obama did that, but not as much. That's the only difference. And yet we are told that Obama had a heart. He had a soul. How do we know he had a heart and he had a soul? Because he had a D by his name. That's the real answer. We had a D by his name, and that means that he has a soul. He has a heart. And it's really nice calves.